They say silence is golden. In Oakhaven, it's leaden. It's a weight that presses against your eardrums. A thick, suffocating fog that swallows sound before it can reach another soul. This town, nestled in the damp, dark heart of the Pacific Northwest, was built on the bones of an industry that died 40 years ago. Now it lives on borrowed time, a ghost of a place where the trees grow too tall and the shadows stretch too long. Most people here have learned to ignore the quiet. They fill it with the hum of refrigerators, the drone of late-night television, the steady rhythm of a life lived in isolation. But for some, the silence isn't empty. It's a canvas, and something is starting to paint on it. Something that doesn't use colors, but frequencies. Something that doesn't want to be seen, but needs to be heard. Have you ever sat in a room so quiet you could hear your own heartbeat? First, it's comforting, a reminder that you're alive. But then you start to hear other things. The house settling, the wind against the glass. And if you listen long enough, you might hear the things that live in the spaces between the sounds. In Oakhaven, those spaces are getting wider. Elias Thorne was a man who understood sound better than he understood people. A former lead engineer for the world's most prestigious acoustic laboratories. His career ended in a symphony of shattered glass and screaming metal. They called it an accident. Elias called it a failure of resonance. Now, he lives in a house that is more laboratory than home, lined with thick, black acoustic foam and packed with equipment that can hear a spider crawling across a leaf a mile away. He came to Oakhaven for the silence. He thought he could bury his trauma in the stillness of the woods. He thought if he could just find a place quiet enough, the screaming in his head would finally stop. But for the last 3 weeks, his recorders have been picking up something impossible. Something that shouldn't exist in nature. It's not geological. I've checked the seismic charts. No tectonic activity. No mining. It's too precise. Every 4.2 seconds, exactly. It's a broadcast. But there's no transmitter for 50 miles. At least none that are supposed to be working. It's coming from the air itself. Or maybe from beneath the ground. Elias spent his days mapping the frequency. He realized it wasn't just a sound. It was a carrier wave. It was carrying information. Coded, dense, and utterly alien. He tried to run it through every decryption algorithm he knew, but the results were always the same. A string of numbers that made no sense. Until he realized they weren't numbers. They were coordinates. At the edge of town, in a brick building that smells of stale coffee, old paper, and ozone, Sarah Jenkins sat alone. As the night shift dispatcher, she was the guardian of Oakhaven's secrets. She knew who drank too much on Tuesdays, whose dog barked at the moon, and whose marriage was falling apart in whispers. But tonight, the secret that called her was one she wasn't prepared to keep. Oakhaven 911, what is your emergency? Hello? This is dispatch. Can you hear me? I need you to speak to me. He's in the corner. My husband, Arthur. He won't turn around. Ma'am? Is Arthur hurting you? Is there a weapon in the house? No, he's just standing. He hasn't moved in 3 hours. He won't blink. I touched his shoulder, Sarah. He felt cold, like he was made of marble. And he's making a noise, like a radio between stations. A high-pitched whistle that makes my ears bleed. He's smiling, Sarah. I can see it in the reflection of the window, but it's not his face. It's like someone took his skin and stretched it over something else. Something that doesn't fit. He says the choir is almost ready. He says the silence is coming for all of us. Ma'am, stay on the line. I'm sending Deputy Vance to your location right now. He'll be there in 5 minutes. Just stay away from him. Go to another room and lock the door. It doesn't matter. The door doesn't matter. The sound, it's so beautiful, Sarah. Can't you hear it? It's calling us home. It's telling me my name. But it's a different name. A better name. Elias didn't wait for morning. He couldn't. The signal was stronger now, a physical pressure against his skull, like a dull needle being driven into his temple. He followed the frequency, his handheld sensor chirping like a panicked bird. It led him toward the ridge, a jagged spine of rock that overlooked the valley, a place the locals called the Devil's Throat. And there, rising out of the fog like a rusted skeleton, was the Spire. It was a relic of the Cold War, a number station designed to broadcast coded messages to spies who had long since been buried in unmarked graves. It was supposed to be a hollow shell, a monument to a dead era of paranoia and shadows. But as Elias approached, the air began to vibrate. The very molecules of the forest seemed to be dancing to a tune only the Spire knew. The trees near the tower were different. Their needles were a sickly, translucent white, and they didn't sway in the wind. They stood perfectly still, as if they were made of glass. Elias felt a wave of nausea wash over him. His compass was spinning wildly, unable to find north in a place where the laws of physics seemed to be fraying at the edges. My God, the power output, it's off the charts. Where is the electricity coming from? The lines were cut in the 80s. I can feel it in my marrow. It's not just sound. It's a rewrite. It's changing the structure of the air. Back in town, the transformation was accelerating. Sarah watched from her window as the neighbors she had known her entire life stepped out onto their porches. Mrs. Gable, who baked cookies for the bake sale. Mr. Henderson, who always complained about the mail. They didn't speak. They didn't look at each other. They simply turned their faces toward the ridge, toward the spire, and began to hum. It was a sound that defied physics, a collective resonance that seemed to pull the very air out of the lungs. Sarah felt a sharp pain behind her eyes, a sensation like a cold finger touching her brain. A memory, her mother's face on her 10th birthday, suddenly flickered, turned to gray static, and vanished. She clawed at her desk, trying to hold on to who she was, but her own name felt like a foreign word in her mouth. She saw a young girl, no more than 6, standing in the middle of the street. The girl wasn't crying. She was staring up at the sky, her mouth open, her eyes wide and empty. And then the girl began to change. Her skin took on a faint, bioluminescent glow, and her movements became fluid, synchronized with the people on the porches. Do not be afraid, Sarah. The noise of your life is almost gone. The static of your ego is fading. Soon there will only be the song. Join us in the silence. Join us in the choir. We have a place for you. We have a place for everyone. Elias stood at the heart of the storm. He reached out to touch the cold, vibrating metal of the tower. He knew he should run, but he couldn't. The curiosity that had ruined his life was now ending it. As his fingers made contact with the rusted steel, the world exploded into sound. Not just the hum, but every sound he had ever recorded, every scream he had ever heard, every word he had ever spoken, all playing at once in a deafening crescendo. He saw his life in waveforms, every joy, every sorrow, every mistake, reduced to a series of peaks and valleys. And then, one by one, the waves began to flatten. The peaks were shaved off, the valleys filled in. His identity was being erased, replaced by a flat, horizontal line of pure, unadulterated static. And then, in the absolute vacuum of that silence, a voice spoke. Not from the speakers, but from inside his own mind. A voice he hadn't heard in 5 years. The voice of the daughter he had lost in the accident. The daughter whose death he had tried to drown in silence. Daddy, can you hear me? I'm in the static now. It's so cold here, but it's so quiet. There's no more pain, no more remembering. Please let me in. Open the door, Daddy. Let the choir in. The broadcast has begun. Oakhaven was just the first station on the dial. The signal is expanding, riding the clouds, flowing through the wires, whispering in the ears of the sleeping world. You're listening to Shadowed Tales. Don't turn off the radio. It won't help. The signal is already inside you.